What up, brothers? It's the Clipper King returning for a brand new review on a figure that I received today. As you can see in front of you, I've got both the versions set up. I am only going to be reviewing the one on the left. That's the last stand version of Wolverine. Like I said, I did unbox this figure earlier on today. If you saw it, it's no surprise to you that the review will come in. If you didn't see it, please go back and check it out, because there's a couple of subjects I covered in the video and I'd like you all to see and understand. But like I said, we'll roll on to this. So I will compare them, I suppose. Not an in-depth comparison, but sort of say what I like about both, really, because I do like both figures. I'm going to score them up like I always do and try and get some posers. Mainly like the last stand one. I don't know what I'm going to do with the X-Men Origins version. I'm going to swap the head back and forth to prove that it does, and we'll have a look at both versions set up, sort of thing. First and foremost, before I roll on, I'd like to say a massive thanks to Lee Ward. You all know, a good friend of mine from the Good, the Bad and the Robots. That's an online store. He does look after me with these figures. I do pay him, so don't get it twisted and think, fucking hell, Rick's getting some free figures. Not the case at all. But when I say he looks after me, I mean he's loyal to me, and he does appreciate what I do for him as regards to reviewing him, shouting him out, putting his name on the review and putting his link at the bottom. So massive shout out to him. And also, what might be a matter of interest to you, even if it means pausing this video, do so now and then nip across to his site and have a look at the price of this Wolverine, because he's got 4 in I don't know if they're in stock, but they're in stock very soon. He has got 4 more available. So anybody who were waiting for this review to think, is the head sculpt all that, or do the teeth look wrong and blah blah blah, if this review helps you make your mind up, remember there's only 4, so don't waste no time. If you've not picked one up from a UK seller, then have a word with Lee, because he will look after you. So that's me thank yous out of the way. First and foremost, I'm going to score it up, and I'm going to say this version, more so than that version, could have possibly been taken from any of the first 3 X-Men films. I know people will be screaming, no it can't because his hair's slightly different. I know his hair's slightly different, but aside from that, the suit is pretty much covered in the first 3 films, and I've always liked the design. They pretty much went for a comic book take on it, but a suit that would look good in real life as well. We aren't going too mental, because if you remember the comics, Wolverine pretty much wore yellow and blue, and if they'd have done that in spandex, it'd have looked a bit of a twat in real film. So I think it were a good compromise to get him in that outfit. So like I say, they did the right thing as regards the suit. But I am gonna, when I score the source material, what I'm going to take into account is Wolverine as a character or as a Marvel license, and also the X3 film. I will say I do like all the X-Men films that have been released. I think they're entertaining, I think they're action-packed, I think they're pretty well character-driven. Obviously Wolverine's the key character, and rightly so. I would say he's Marvel's second biggest likeness after Spider-Man, possibly being challenged by Iron Man at the moment since the release of the Iron Man films. But I would say, comic book wise, I would say X-Men probably sells more than everything bar Spider-Man, I would think, in the Marvel universe. So respect to Wolverine on that. I do love the Wolverine character. I do like his don't give a fuck nature. I think I might have modelled myself on him a little bit in the past, even down to my facial hair. Now, people say Wolverine, I classic more David Beckham look, but that's beside the point. But yeah, the film itself, I would possibly give it a 3 out of 5, because it is a good comic book film, but it's not my favourite. But I am taking into account that it is a Wolverine, and it is an in-costume Wolverine, which is a sight to behold. So on the strength of the character, I'm going to boost it up to a 4 out of 5. Now I'm going to quickly roll on to packaging and troll straight through it, because we pretty much know it. Then I'm going to come back and crack back on with the review. Right, rolling on to packaging. I'll try and do this quickly. It's a shoebox style box, like most of the Marvel figures up to them doing the Avengers. Not a great deal I can say about it. The front artwork represents the costume, as you can see, then obviously the claw in between. The claws are raised, The lining is not. The wording is raised. Very little I can say about it. The side, obviously you get the side picture. The other side, you get the larger, different picture. And then on the back, you do get a nice picture of the figure. Now, I think that would have been more interesting if that picture would have been on the front, but it's not, and that's Hot Toys for you. The artwork's not always my taste. Now, what I'm going to say is, I've been marking these scores down recently. I've been trying to be a lot tougher and make it harder for figures to score well. Now, I'm just going to say, now, any standard packaging, such as a slipcover or a shoebox, from now on, after this review, we'll only get a 2, unless it's stunning artwork or there's something special about it. It's outstanding quality. This is pretty much of a muchness, but because I've just made the statement, from the next review onwards, they're going to get a 2. On this one, I will still give it a 3 because it is in good condition. The double clams inside and the nice post artwork, I don't need to show you that. There's other reviews of art. Like I say, I want to be fair, but then again, I don't want to give the scores out too easy. So I am only going to give it a 3, but from this review onwards, any box of this style, if the artwork's not up to my taste, I'm going to mark it down to a 2, just because it's functional sort of thing. So that's the packaging done. Just before I roll on, I always do your pose per category. I've done pretty similar to the first pose, but I just wanted to give you the first glimpse of the head swapped over. Now, what I would say is, and I didn't do this, I just swapped the head. Now, inside the head, there's like a double ball jointed neck peg sort of thing. Now, I would say I didn't swap them over, so the correct head peg is still in that neck peg, and its own neck peg is in that. I think once they're on, you realise that this one has a slightly longer neck peg, because it sits a lot higher on the neck, where this one sits a lot lower. So I would suggest, if you're going to swap the heads over, leave the peg in the correct body and only swap the head. So, like I said, but I think you can get good poses from each figure, depending on the head that's on. You pretty much now got a neutral head and a fight pose head, which is what I wanted from the beginning. So I just wanted to show you that just on packaging, because it's not a massive improvement to the poses. But like I said, the packaging, I give it a 3 out of 5.
Right, moving on to likeness. Probably the most important. Like I've said before, if a sculpt's off, people don't want it. People see different things, and what I will say from the outset, the teeth. This was a big issue for a lot of people when this figure first got shown. Said the teeth, I don't know, there's something not right about them, unnatural looking. And I personally thought, when I first saw the teeth, I thought, fucking hell, is he bedding them in for Seabiscuit? So I thought they looked like horse teeth. Now, more I saw it, more I thought, Hot Toys can't win here, because there's people, such as me, who are saying the pose or the facial sculpts are sometimes a little bit too neutral. Give us something. Give us Leonidas with a fucking mental head. When I first reviewed the original Wolverine, I said it should have come with a mental head sculpt. Now, for me, they're doing what we ask them, and then we're criticising them for doing it. And I think to myself, is that fair? Now, going back to the teeth, I want to say, and I hate this in a review when I watch it. The camera does it no justice. You hear it 1,000 times. One of the biggest cliches. It's nearly as bad as people who review fucking 3A and tell you it's weathered. We know it's weathered. Things on camera don't always appear what they are. And I said, we'll get a better camera. But there's not a great deal up with my camera. But what I find when I'm looking through viewfinder is, because of the light in the teeth, they look too white and too unnatural. Now in hand, you don't get that. And it's not that the camera's picking it up wrong, but what you're getting is an unnatural light blasted into its face. If I pull away from that, the light hitting the teeth as much. Now I've gone for an head sculpt looking down, a pose with the heads looking down. So pretty much at eye level, the figure's doing that. It's coming across with sort of a right cross. He's got rotation through his body. He's sort of slashing down with his right hand, getting his left hand ready to come back round the other way, kind of left hook style. That's the pose I've gone for. Now, while I was doing the likeness, I wanted to have a downward facing head sculpt, simply because the above lights, namely them, or the spotlights, namely them, don't sort of accent his teeth more than it needs to be done. Watch as I get closer, when the light hits the teeth, makes them look unnatural and horse-like. Now, in hand, I can only tell you this vocally. I can't really show you, obviously, because every time we're close, the light's going to hit, unless I turn the light off, and then you're going to struggle to get a good pixel rate. So, I was blown away with it. I took it out of the box today. Nenny told me I would be, and I sort of thought, yeah, everybody says that when they've just bought a figure. But when I took it out, I thought, fucking hell, it's Hugh Jackman. Now, for me, and this might be controversial, I see more of Hugh Jackman in that sculpt than I do in the X-Men Origins sculpt. I think my intention when I got this figure was to give his teeth a black wash, which would dull them down. Now, I don't even think I'm going to touch them because I think they're about right. I can't really fault the sculpt. I think if you cover his mouth, you can tell with the eyes and the expression it's Hugh Jackman. I think the profile, let me get it for you. I think the profile is really good. I think the work on the hair, facial hair, is really natural. The eyes, obviously, for sculpted eyes, have a lot of depth, like Hot Toys always do, due to the paintwork. But I see it. I see Hugh Jackman in there. Not to mention the hair sculpt as well. Fucking awesome. Every strand of hair looks like it's been combed fresh and neat. It's got that Wolverine style through and through. Trying to turn it around, sorry boys. Like I say, it's sort of combed up. Very much teddy boy style, as we call it in England. I don't know what the Americans call it, like rocker style. Just combed up, and how the hair sort of replicates how his mask used to be in the comics, sort of with the side kicks, the fins going up the side, and even down his, like I said, down his facial hair. Fucking awesome. I see it, brothers. Now, I won't tell you this head sculpt's fucking rocking if it weren't, if it was substandard, or if I didn't see it, I'd say, well, it's alright, but I won't buzz about it. Now, this sculpt makes me buzz. I just think they've got it spot on. Like I said, the hairstyle to the X-Men films, the early X-Men films, I think, is bang on, and I just like everything about it. And I'm gonna commend Hot Toys for actually going for an aggressive face sculpt as well. I don't know if it's... Oh, am I looking? Jack Sparrow is fucking awesome, but it's got purrs, so that helps. I think I love the DX10 head sculpt. I think that's awesome. I like the laughing head sculpt of the new DX11 Joker. Would I put this among them? I don't know, but it's not far under if it's not. But because I commend Hot Toys and I've got to sort of support the aggressive sculpt, I am going to give it a 5 out of 5. Some people will come back and say, I don't see Hugh Jackman in there. Well, we all see what we see. I do see it. And like I said, I very rarely judge pictures. I like to see things in hand. But like I said, I wouldn't tell people to go out and get a figure if they didn't want it or they didn't like the sculpt. But me personally, I think that is a 5 out of 5 sculpt. And like I say, I hope you like that pose as well. Gone for full steam ahead, fucking berserker mode. Moving on to the outfit. I'll show you the pose first. Just moving down. And leaping forward, flying uppercut sort of thing. Yeah, he's in the ascension sort of thing, jumping up. Obviously, you know, people who've never watched my review before, I use the new Goblin stand from the Spider-Man 3 film. That's my review stand. Right, the outfit. Probably one nitpick on it, and I will get to it shortly. But it's pretty much important thing, the gloves, or the claws sort of thing. Sculpted, obviously, metal feeling, like on the first version. Pretty sharp on tip. I don't suppose you're going to be stabbing nobody with it. Catches the light nicely. And yeah, not much more I can say. Again, both hands. They are sculpted hands. The boots are well done. Again, sculpted. Sort of like a toe cap end. And because they're not really high, they do articulate really well.
I'll cover that on the articulation. It's got the, it's not an all-in-one suit, it's sort of a jacket and trousers, and then underneath it's got like a black undersuit kind of thing, like a lycra unitard or whatever you want to call it, all in one. So I think that's more to protect the body from the suit, because I know Hot Toys do that on a lot of figures. So basically the meat of the costume is basically his jacket and trousers. Now it's pleather, it's nice feeling, it's cut and stitch is really nice, and all around the piping, no frayed thread or anything hanging all over. The design is accurate, what I can see. I'll try and move it around for you. See the padded shoulders, and then coming down to the forearm, the padding on the thigh. The sort of, it's layer on layer but don't look too bulky, which is important. The symbols on the front of the collar, and then on the back, sort of more printed, the one on the back. Going down, then he's got like a breather section in the back which is elasticated, and also on the inside of the leg, as you can see, both sides, which helps the articulation, and is movie accurate. It's got the sort of the belt buckle, which I think it just sort of pops off, but I won't be taking it off anyway, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. So it's got a working zipper up the front, on the sleeves. Yep. As you notice, I have done it down. That's for a reason. I'll get to that in a minute. Underneath the arm, so the cutaways, and then the elasticated section inside. Right, the material, like I said, it is pleather, and it's not top dollar. It's more like Blade's trousers than Arnold's clothes. We all know Arnold's clothes are real leather, and you can tell because of how supple it is. This sort of moves, don't restrict him too much, but you know it's not soft, supple leather. It's clearly pleather. So it doesn't take away from the look at all, but sometimes like this, sort of folds, not like leather would do. It's hard to explain. It's a good leather copy, but you know it's not leather. You know straight away it's not leather. The multi-layers sort of through the upper arm in particular sort of restrict it a little bit. You'd struggle to push the arm up more than that, which is a shame because underneath it has got a double jointed elbow, but I will cover that in articulation. So what are the things I don't like about the suit? One tiny little thing, and I understand why they've done it. The collar, when it's zipped all the way to the top, it sort of is, the sides of his collar are right up onto his sideburns, which sort of takes away from the likeness. I don't really like that about it, but that's not the major nitpick. The major nitpick with the costume is flared trousers. The too flared. When he's stood up, he's too wide. I think it should be nipped in. Maybe have a press stud to close it, or a zipper section down the back, or whatever, whether that's movie accurate or not. But it basically wants taking in a couple of millimetres so it folds onto his boot natural. I'll come back and mention that when I get him in a standing pose, because obviously while he's jumping like this, it's not going to show how baggy the trouser is. But a few people have mentioned it, and I will say I've seen some good reviews on this figure. I watched the SS Joe the Catty Boy one recently. Wait, SS Joe, or were it Wolf's Blood? Might have been Wolf's Blood. Apologies which one it were and which one it weren't, sort of thing. But I did watch one recently and it was a really good review. And the other guys who have done it did all pick up on the fact it had got flared trousers. I think they are too flared. So not only are they not accurate, but it's not a good look. So the outfit, I don't know, it's intricate, but it's not like not like a Jack Sparrow or the new Joker outfit. It's not as in-depth as that. And like I said, and because of the little nitpick, I'm going to mark it down to a 4 out of 5. But like I said, it is movie accurate and it doesn't restrict the articulation too much. So yeah, like I said, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. Moving on to articulation. I'll show you the pose first. Just turn the Goblin stand backwards. Pretty much got him jumping up out at cabinet. Excuse the dog next door, I'm going to go down and fucking poison it if you don't shut up. Right. Yeah, just got him leaping out as if he's leaping off the top cabinet into fucking action. His claws at the ready, swooping down like a big cat. So yeah, that's the pose I've gone for. Articulation, like I said. I sort of alluded to a couple of things when I were talking about the outfit. The restriction in the articulation mainly come from the outfit. Namely up in the upper arm section, because obviously the padding and the layer on layer and the stitching and whatever, it sort of not bulks the outfit up. It doesn't look bulky, but you feel that there's like a restriction in the pose in the upper arm. Not so much in the lower arm. You can move them around and in and out, tilt and swivel and all that, but it's sort of the articulation around this area because of the padded section on the shoulder. So like to try and get his arm straight above him would be a no-go. The elbows are double jointed, so they would do it, and they do get in nice and tight, where the old Wolverine figure never, it would just a single bend. So this one is a slight improvement. The articulation through the body is really good. Not loose feeling. It feels tight, but it moves smoothly. Moving down, same with the legs. Got a bulky look to the leg, but again, it's not hindered. The trousers don't really hinder the legs at all. And then the boot area, really good ankle articulation, swivel, tilt, everything, because the boot's not that high and there is a good joint inside. The articulation on the head is good, but depending where you pose the head, it's sort of, certain views are blocked out by the collar if you've got it zipped up. So I suppose you could say the head articulation is not the best, and obviously it's only got the joint at the top of the neck, not the bottom, which again I appreciate. I'd get rid of the lower neck joint personally, unless it's got to be like a Spider-Man sort of figure where you want awesome articulation. But something like this, I would go for the aesthetics over the movement. So yeah, I do like that about it. The wrists slightly hindered on the articulation, as in dip and sort of pull back, because it's a glove and the glove goes sort of, I don't know, 3mm up his forearm, so it slightly hinders it, not massively. And I will say as well, when you're swapping in the hands, I would pull the peg out of the arm, put it into the hand, and then put the full section back in, because you don't want to bust an hand peg, and you definitely don't want to fuck one of them claws up putting it back in, because a set of hands for this will probably cost you somewhere between 40 and 50 quid. So that's the last thing you want to do. So articulation, I've got to mark it down because it isn't perfect. It won't do everything, but it is an improvement on the old one, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
Moving on to extras or accessories. What does it bring? Does it bring enough? Nah, does it fuck bring enough? They did it with the first Wolverine figure, give you nothing for your money. They've pretty much done it again. I can remember reviewing the first Wolverine and I says, what else could they have given you, sort of thing? Give a diorama base. This one did. It's got a light up feature inside, but it's on and it's not bright enough at all. Might be better obviously if I turn the lights off, but for sake of review it's not important enough for me to even put cabinet lights off. It's very cheap feeling. I don't know, I'm going to use it as a backdrop, I think, when I do my display of the Wolverines together. I'm not going to have Wolverine posed on it, I don't think. It's not a bad touch, but it's sort of a trick more than all. It's to make you think, oh fucking hell, look, it brings this base and blah blah blah. And it's not. They do it with Predators, I suppose, but then I suppose Predators have more accessories anyway. So I don't know. If we compare it to something like the Black Suit Spider-Man or Blade, we'll compare it to both. Think what Blade had. He must have had 10 weapons, an array of hands, an overcoat, a bomber jacket, the gun harness, a lot more than this. I would certainly score Blade up over this. The Spider-Man, probably similar price point, black suit version. We got all the webbing, all the hands, the Sandman base, which is better than that, and then we got the Peter Parker head. Now, to make this a set at this value, what would I have wanted? Right. I'm not going to go back and say I'd have wanted a neutral head as well, because that sort of goes back on what I said in the first review. but they could have given you a cigar. They could have given you an head sculpt with a cigar sculpted into the mouth. They could have given you the head where he's sort of, as he's trying to get to the Dark Phoenix, she's sort of dissolving him. They could have given you that head where his skin were peeling away. They could have given you another head, any way you look at it. The outfit's not interchangeable, so you pretty much, what you see is what you get. Moving down, the generic stand. I will be using that, like I said, and then using the Sentinel head as a backdrop. We've got 6 hands. Fucking, I know everybody's going to use the claw hands. They've got to use the claw hands on the Wolverine figure. So then for a pointless hands, so what I'm going to say is ridiculous. Why didn't they give you more hands? Why didn't they give you the blades out, but the hands not fully closed, sort of thing? Or the blades half out, or a set of hands that will hold a separate blade. I don't know, something. They give you 6 hands, you'll only use 2 of them, they'll stay in a box or in a bag or whatever, and it's fucking pointless, really. I will say, anybody who's interested, the hands are well done, well painted and everything. Set of hand pegs, but like I say, if you're not going to be swapping the hands out, are you going to need any more hand pegs? Any way you slice it, it's not enough. It's not enough for a figure that cost as much as it did. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. Like I said, I'm toughening up, but even if I weren't toughening up, I'd struggle to give it more than 2 out of 5. Like I said, they have tried with the base and respect to them, but like I said, just bump it up, bump the package up with something, I don't know what. But anyway, that's the score I've given it. So I'm going to get it reposed for a last time. I'm going to do the value and the overall score. Before I move on, a fucking mistake from Clipper King. Yeah, it does happen. I didn't tell you what I was thinking when I posed it, and I like to do that because, I don't know, before you know it, I'll just be a run-at-mill reviewer and, I don't know, nobody will fucking be interested. So, what we're thinking with this, it's pretty much jumping down past the Sentinel's head, and he's got his blades in an area to make it look like he's putting those scratches down the head, and sort of jumping down. He's going to land somewhere in the foreground here, so it's like a bit of an action pose with his claw actually doing some damage to the Sentinel's head. So that's what we're going for. That's what it looks like from a distance. I hope you like it. And now I will roll on. Right, rolling on to value. As we've just discussed, the figure doesn't bring enough for the value to be that strong. Because obviously you're going to be paying around £150, I would think, shipped, which that's base rate for a figure now, boys. As much as I don't like it, that's just a fact. Obviously, you'd struggle to pick this version of Wolverine up now, and we all know that for £150. I do believe that that figure will do the same, simply because I think it complements this one so well. So anybody who's got that would probably want that. Anybody who wants to do a custom of the new version of Wolverine will want it. And if they do bring the Wolverine figure out, it'd be cool to have all 3. So I do think the value will go up. If you can get it for around £150, I would say get it. Like I say, if you're not expecting a lot, then you're not going to be disappointed. And when I say a lot, I mean as in the quantity of things that you get with it. If you want a mean looking figure, sleek and sexy in his black leather outfit, then I would say don't delay, boys, get hold of one. But when I score it, like I've said before, I score it on what I paid for the figure. I've paid a good price again. Lee takes care of his Uncle Clipper, so I've got to judge it on that. Am I happy with what I've paid? I'm happier than paying it from Hong Kong, if that answers your question. So yeah, I'm gonna give the value of 4 out of 5. And like I said, if it had come with more, I would have given it a 5 out of 5 because of the price I've paid. But it doesn't bring a lot, so I can't give it a massive value. But like I said, I'm happy with the price I've paid. I wanted the figure anyway, and like I said, Lee bettered the price I would have been able to get it anywhere else. So yeah, and like I said at the start, Lee has got 4 of those left. I don't know if anybody's bought them at the start of this review or whatever, but I would say they won't last long. So if you're in 2 minds, buy it, have a look and sell it. But I think you will like it. So like I said, don't sleep on it, because you all slept on this one and now you're clamouring around for one on eBay and fucking Facebook and everywhere else. This figure, I predict, will do the same
as that did, and possibly Blade. I know it don't bring as much as Blade, so it's hard to compare it to that, but what I would say is I paid a nice price, and if you can get one for around 150, then fucking I would say jump on. But the value, I've given a 4 out of 5, which takes the total to 26 out of a possible 35, which is not a nice score, let's be honest. Those who are counting will know the figures that scored above it. Does that make it a bad figure? No, it don't. Like a massive figure, a figure that gets 35, don't make it the best figure in the collection. All I would say is, when I pose that up, it's going on a top shelf for everybody to see with this bad boy, and I'll be proud of that. I'll be proud of that display. So I think that's about all I want to say. What's coming next for Clipper? At some point this week, one of the nights, I want to jump on and do a video advertising a group I'm in on Facebook, and the reason I'm advertising is because I think it's a group of interest. I like what's going on over there. I'm going to shout out some of the named guys and girls, and just basically do a video on how I'm finding Facebook at the moment. So that might be of interest if you're one of my Facebook friends, because if I remember during the review, I will try and give everybody a name check. I might need my phone on standby on that one. And then at the weekend, or when I get time, I want to do a full collection in full HD, simply because I've got a few new figures in. I've changed my displays around a little bit, and I just want to give you a full guided tour. But until then, this is Clipper King, and I'm out of here.